if you've been following along, I've made some predictions. Jason's made some calls, but at this point, I said this, I'm truly palms up because it's just it's literally changing by the hour, and any type of quote unquote inside information I'm getting is just like the target is just it's like a jackrabbit on poles, on like a field of poles, dude. Like this thing's just bouncing around all day long.
If you're a college football coach and you look at Penn State and you look at what happened this year, you look at all that Coach Franklin did, you look at us being a play away from the national championship, and you see a guy get fired the next year, I don't think from a standpoint of job security, not that there is much job security in coaching nowadays, but I don't think from a job security standpoint, I think that plays a factor in coaches looking at this job.
26, our slate isn't crazy. So, like, that's something that I think is really enticing for these coaches. When you look
that's true, too. Absolutely.
Like, we play at Michigan, and I think USC comes to town. And then if you want to circle another one, like, we go to Washington, right? Like, other than that, the schedule's pretty light.
Quarterback sneak right side, touchdown, Penn State!
All right, regular season's over. We're going bowling. We completed the inevitable, winning 3 in a row, ripping it off there. Jason thought we were never going to win another football game ever again. So check that box, made him a liar, and now we're here, right? Like this is the time of year where I frankly was very interested in, even more so than what was going on Saturdays. Like, don't get me wrong, I love watching Penn State football, I love watching college football, but this period between now and the bowl game is ultimately going to dictate the future of this program. And it's just been extremely interesting following this along. I mean, I just can't, like, I can't really wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, it's like a program-defining moment. I feel like we're in right now, and everybody's just on the edge of their seats waiting to see what's going to happen, us two included. But I think it's worth noting that this thing is gotten a little bit hairy. I think it's tough because there are factors, but the reality is when you go into this thing and you have a wish list, and on that wish list, you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, regardless of the order of those guys, and you look at the schools and you look at them getting contract extensions, and you start to get further and further down that list. It worries me some, and I think it worries the fans. I think it worries everybody. Unless there's some candidate that is so beyond super hush that's been picked out since who knows how long ago. Unless that's the case, which I don't personally think it is. I think this is a tough, situation that we're in right now, just straight up.
Yeah, I mean, the whole super hush thing, like, let's be honest, it doesn't exist anymore in today's society. Like, there were dudes on message boards pulling house closures in Baton Rouge for Labor Day. like that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I think it's just unique to call out, like, the state of college football right now, because you look at this. Today is the first. Mark Stoops gets fired at Kentucky. Jonathan Smith was fired yesterday at Michigan State, and I believe they filled that candidacy already with Pat Fitzgerald. Tim Beck at Coastal Carolina, which is like, the hell's coming up? Like that's just a head scratcher to me. Tulane's now open because of John Summerall head to Florida. Golash is out. He's at Auburn. So South Florida's open now. Memphis, Ryan Silverfield, hired by Arkansas. Memphis is now open. John Mora going to UConn, or leaving UConn, going to Colorado State. UConn's now open. North Texas, Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. Now North Texas is open. Cal, Justin Wilcox, fired on the 23rd. Penn State, still vacant. UCLA, still vacant. Oregon State, UAB, It's insane, this list.
Yeah, this has to be one of the biggest carousels I've ever seen with this amount of open jobs. It's like, what does everybody expect? That we're just going to play musical chairs? And like, people don't understand. Someone has to win the games and someone has to lose them. Like, that's the reality of the situation. Like, this is college football, and in an age where parity, we're getting closer and closer to parity as the days go on. And it's just like, man, do you guys think there's just a bunch of golden boys just sitting on the bench waiting to be hired? Like, is that what people think? And when I see a carousel that this big, it's like, okay, we all do a whole bunch of switcheroos, but it's just like, the only thing that really changes is like the circumstances and the situations and like the recruiting and like the money, but like everything's really all the same, you know? So it's scary if you're a coach, and honestly, it's scary that if you're a player, because you can go and commit to a school and you don't know if within those 4 years you're still going to be playing for the coach that you committed to at the end of the day, who really at the end of the day had plans for you to succeed in a certain way that you may not know if that new coach coming in will have those same plans for you. So it's difficult, and I think the thing about this conversation that kind of pisses me off the most is just how ignorant people are, and like, they don't see the BS of like the NCAA and their role in this all. Like, people are out here like painting Lane Kiffin like this big bad villain, and I'm not saying that Lane, doesn't have a narrative surrounding it for some of the things that have gone on earlier in his coaching career. And I'm not excusing it, or I'm not saying it's right, this, that, and the third. But this specific situation going on with Ole Miss, this is not an Ole Miss problem. This is not a Lane Kiffin problem. This is an NCAA problem, and I want everybody to own it, and I want everybody to talk about it. Because everybody's too busy pointing fingers at Lane and saying, Lane's trying to poach the coaches and poach all the players. This dude wants to coach. This dude had a meeting with the Ole Miss higher-ups and asked to finish off the year, which those kids deserve to have. They deserve to have their coach to finish the year, and Lane wants to. But the reality is you go to your rival school, there are plans and things that you need to do, this, that, and the third. And Ole Miss basically said, we don't want you around for an entire month plus when, you're deciding to take another job. So it's tough, and this has to do with fixing the academic calendar, making things match up, fixing transfer portal. Like, there are a lot of structural infrastructure type of things when it comes to the NCAA and how all of this goes down that needs to change so that we're not put in these positions where kids are having to transfer without playing their bowl games like Bo Prabula, where Lane is able to finish his coaching job instead of having to leave and not coach in the college football playoffs. That's terrible. So I kind of just want to point that out and put that out there because I don't feel like the narrative is being talked about the right way. It's too much pointing fingers at Ole Miss and at Lane Kiffin when the fingers need to all be pointed at the NCAA and the lack of commission.
So remind me to get back to that because I think that that's a really good point. But something that you said earlier, you talked about all these jobs, like is it money investment, is it this and that and the other, in the third. And the one thing I like to think about now is just like the shift in college football. I believe in no way, shape, or form 10 years ago, minus the sanctions, minus all that other BS around the program, 10 years ago, if the Penn State program's in the same exact spot that it is right now, they have people clamoring for this job.
Right.
It might be ignorant that I say it that way, but like I'm just talking about brand, association, reach, ability to recruit, win in blue blood, like blue chip territory from a high school feeder system, all that stuff. It's a no-brainer from pretty much 95% of the schools out there to come to Penn State if you have that opportunity. Now, to your point, you're seeing guys say no and yes, and is it a fit? And it's more so like, how much money are you injecting? And it becomes less about what the historical relevance of a program is and much more about how does this fit my needs and my vision and my direction for my program as the head coach, which I think is really interesting, right? And I think that's part of the reason why Penn State's been put in this position is I think the initial thought process was that it would even draw a guy like Curt Cignetti from Indiana to Penn State, where again, 10 years ago, no brainer, no matter how good Indiana is, right? But now I think you're starting to see this, and even Maryland's given Loxley another year, and they plan to invest significantly financially behind that football program. It's just really unique seeing how the money and all of these things shift, and how these people who are the coaches who are ultimately making decisions and have candidacy for these jobs are shifting their priorities, and how what is a quote unquote destination job anymore? Like, does it even exist? I think
yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think also not only that, but like, it's sad to say, but if you're a college football coach and you look at Penn State and you look at what happened this year, you look at all that Coach Franklin did, you look at us being a play away from the national championship, and you see a guy get fired the next year, I don't think from a standpoint of job security, not that there is much job security in coaching nowadays, but I don't think from a job security standpoint, I think that plays a factor in coaches looking at this job. It is unfortunate, but between the expectations of the fans, the expectations of this place, what Coach Franklin was able to do, and just to be honest, the way he was treated on the way out, I don't think that makes his job, a destination place for too many coaches. If I just specifically was in that position with zero bias at all in it, and I was just a coach looking to start, I do know that looking at a situation like that, that would discourage me.
Yeah.
It's hard not to be discouraged by that.
I think that kind of becomes more of like a PR game, because I think the administration did say in some capacity that this wasn't necessarily a knee-jerk decision just because of that 3-game slide that happened. This was something that they tried to look at the entire body of work with Coach Franklin, which when you look at it is fair. There have been some up and downs, and it seemed to have plateaued. But the way that it ultimately was perceived in terms of national media running with it, and even some local media and all these other things, and how fast that word spreads. Perception is reality in a lot of ways, and the perception was, we're doing this because our expectation is X, right?
Right.
And it's not wrong saying that that's your expectation, but then there's a lot to be filled in there, and it wasn't necessarily filled in, I think, in an advantageous way for the messaging surrounding Penn State, right?
Yeah.
And that's just, again, the reality of the situation that we live in today. Is a lot of people got voices, a lot of people got reach that probably don't need to have that reach, and stuff gets out there, and it's really hard to kind of like get over labels in today's day and age. Once it's labeled, it's kind of labeled, and they're going to move on, right? As opposed to really taking the time to dive into it. It's just, like I said, I just think it's been extremely unique. And then like going back to what you were talking about the NCAA and rattling all this stuff off, like, how do you, if you are the NCAA, start to address these issues? If you were to put like a hot board together, say like, here are the 3 things that I think fix the fluidity and uncertainty of the college football season and the sport as a whole. How do I start?
Well, I got 2 or 3 things off the top of my head. I mean, the number one thing is we need a leader. That's the number one. We don't have a commissioner in the NCAA. We need a commissioner. We need a leader who wakes up every single day saying, what can I do better to help college football? That eats, drinks, and sleeps that thought process. We don't have that right now. Number 2 would be, how do we match up the transfer portal with the academic calendar so we are not all effed up with these guys transferring and having to make decisions sooner than they should have to, and this, that, and a third? It's BS. A guy like Bo Prabula should not have had to choose last year between giving myself an opportunity to play and finishing my season out with my team that's playing in the college football playoffs. Absolute BS. These kids sacrifice way too much. These coaches sacrifice way too much and pour too much in for them to not get all the juice out that they earned at the end of the day. Bo Prabula earned the right to be on that field with Penn State last year. He's I get it, he's the backup quarterback, but Bo had a role in our offense. There are plays that Bo made that helped us get to the college football playoffs. Without Bo Prabula, we don't beat Wisconsin last year. That's just the truth. So for him to not be able to reap the benefit of his own sacrifice, of his own efforts that he put in my opinion, is complete BS. So those are like the number two things. Yeah. NCAA commissioner, academic calendar lining up with transfer portal. Those are like the first two things that come to my head.
It's interesting. I think one of the larger issues, my opinion, is the transfer portal as a whole. I think it's like, and I'm not sure like why no one's brought this up or done anything with it. And I've said this, I think, previously here, but I really want to dive into it because I want to explain how it kind of fixes this ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
Because I think the Lane Kiffin use case is a perfect example for what I'm getting at.
So the Lane Kiffin Ole Miss case, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect example of why you fix the transfer portal. Like, yes, coaches can leave and all this other stuff, and as players, like, you get put in bad situations. But at the end of the day, like, a coach can coach for 40, 50 years, right? It depends on how early they get in, depends on how late they stay in. College football players can play for 5 years. You got a 5-year window to play, make a decision, put your best resume out there to either get a great education and go to the job force or play at the next level if you're fortunate enough to do that. So when you look at that, like, that's just a disparity in terms of, like, you're going to expect a coach to probably be at several different places over a 50-year career. College kid, you know, maybe there's a one-off scenario where a coach does leave or something like that. And to your point, like you highlighted, it might be a better fit elsewhere, go follow that coach, whatever. I think the simplest fix to all of this is the transfer portal. You get one Willy Wonka golden ticket. You get one transfer as a player, right? Where you can transfer, play immediately, no holds bar, nothing. You get one. And I think that that's fair.
I agree.
For the reason that I laid out, right? Then if you want to move again, you have the grad
traditional
transfer
rule of sitting out one rule.
The traditional rule of sitting out one rule, and then if you graduate, you can transfer and you don't have to sit. The grad transfer rule that's been in there forever, right?
Yeah.
So that to me fixes a lot of this, right? Because when you look at the recruiting cycle, now kids are going to be forced to make a decision that is much more holistic.
Yeah.
Going back to like how we evaluated making decisions. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but what I'm saying is I think that's the best way to appease all parties involved here. Because you got to remember, academia is going nuts over this stuff right now. When you start talking to professors and all that, you know, we're labeling these guys as employees and professional athletes. There's talking heads that are saying this now too, right? So at the end of the day, if you want to fix all that, you get one, right? Now I'm evaluating the process. Like, does the school fit? Is this what I want to do academically? If this coach does leave and I choose to use that, like, where else does it go? I think it just shrinks the pressure, right? And it takes the leverage kind of out of these players' hands, which I'm not saying that it shouldn't be in the players' hands at all. I'm saying it just shouldn't like be all the way in the players' hands. Because now
it moves closer towards the middle.
Coaches are beholden to that, right? Like, you're recruiting your own roster year after year, let alone, you know, going out and trying to fill new kids. And then you have to try to develop a culture, and like, it's just really, really hard. So I think that singular thing fixes a lot of issues. And how I'm going to tie this back to the Lane Kiffin thing is you're talking about from the Ole Miss administrative standpoint. We don't want a guy who's going to be coaching at a school that's in our conference that is a quote-unquote rival of ours for another month, going on to do successful things with our current roster and our current players, with the full expectation that potentially 80 to 90% of them, if they make a deep playoff run, will go with Lane to LSU, and then Ole Miss is stuck holding the bag with a very limited transfer portal window to fill this in, right?
Yeah.
If they had one rule, if they had the one transfer rule, I think you would see a much less exodus at the end of the year for players going with Lane. I think you have kids who are at Ole Miss because they view the school holistically as a great opportunity for them. And then subsequently, I think it just makes it easier for coaches to make these types of decisions, right? You don't get as much pressure put on the coach. I think Lane, with the leverage he had, could have technically held out probably until the end of the college football playoff run or the end of Ole Miss's season. But LSU's looking at it as deadline, throw a crazy bag. We got to get on the transfer portal, blah, 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 blah. I think it just simplifies a lot of the bullshit and kind of gets it back to center. And then from there, I think to your point, now you can put someone in charge of it, right? Now, how do we make everything else fair? Do the players start to get unionized representation? It's a huge trickle-down effect from there. But right now, unrestricted free agency every year causes mass chaos in a spider web of directions around the entire ecosystem. And it just doesn't have to be that way. The one caveat is I think you should be able to transfer up, right? Like if I'm at
agree with that too.
I'm at Amherst and Oregon calls me and wants to give me a chance to go play at Oregon, like go ahead, dude. Like I think you should be able to transfer up, but if you're doing anything laterally, you get one, bro. Like you get one. You know? I think it's a better thing for like society as a whole too. You have to actually evaluate a decision you're going to make that has repercussions for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah, and if it doesn't work out, you got to go through the adversity, you know,
right.
Because the reality is these kids nowadays is this shit doesn't work out. I'm not getting enough snaps. I'm not the star player that coach said I was going to be. I'm gone.
Yeah.
That's like 90% of these players' mindsets nowadays, and that's just not
year over year.
Dude. I mean, we've had guys that have come through our program like fucking Miles Sanders, who is so talented, and had to sit behind Saquon Barkley for years, and he really just got his 1 year shot and made the most of it. Gets drafted in I think the 4th round. What did Miles get drafted in? 3rd, 4th round? Maybe second.
Maybe
like. Pretty solidly high draft pick. This is a guy who sat for like 4 years, redshirted and all, and got his one shot, made the most of it. But it's like people don't see the way his iron was getting sharpened all of that time, sitting behind Saquon, understanding how Saquon worked, picking up good things. Like there's value in that. And these kids they don't see the value in that anymore. They don't see the value in learning and getting better. They only see the value in their own process if they get to go and play as a true freshman and just grow from there. Like everyone's journey isn't all just this unilateral climb, you know, from 0 to 100. That's just not how it works, man. There are steps. There's times you're going to go up to 40 and then fall back to 30 because of an injury, or a guy transfers in who's legit competition for you. Like there are going to be extenuating circumstances that every single player are going to have to navigate. And the reality is, more so than just football, that's teaching you about life.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the goal for all of these college football programs should be to be able to turn boys into men and into successful men who can become successful fathers, successful businessmen, successful husbands in life, period, end of story. Yeah. That was Coach Franklin's goal with our program at the end of the day, is to bring boys in here, turn them into men, leave them better than the way that I found them.
That's something a lot of coaches preach. But what sucks is it's almost like it's being painted as it has to be one or the other. And I don't think that's the case. I agree. I think it can be financially fruitful for all parties involved. Which is deserved when you look at how much money this system creates and the economy that college football creates. It's deserved, but you can also teach the tough lessons and focus on those things if the infrastructure is set up the right way. And that's just what frustrates me, is it just like everything has been lost and everyone hit panic mode when like you didn't have to hit panic mode. Like just think about it. And like set the infrastructure in a way where you mitigate the long-term damage to the overall concept of the sport, and you inject as much of the short-term upside as you humanly possibly can for all parties involved.
Yeah.
You know, everyone talks about that, dude. Like you could go back to when you were getting recruited. Every coach talks about, I want to turn you into the most successful. Like everyone talks about that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be about that in today's current structure.
100%. And there should be a path in which that is easier for coaches to accomplish without it feeling, you know, like it's transactional, without being able to feel the, you know, traditional college football environment that it should be. Like me personally, like to this day, our boys in our class, in your class, in the class below me, like I still have so many boys I'm with like this To this day, like literally to this day, between Grant, Amani, Marcus, Saquon, Miles, like Trap, like Koa, the list goes on and on. Like dudes I like really consider to be like my brothers. And like in order to develop that, or the reason why you develop that is because you all go through adversity together.
Yeah.
And those relationships to me are absolutely invaluable. Like I said, these are guys who I go on golf trips with every year. These are guys who are now having kids who I'm getting to know. And, you know, like, that's real family, true brotherhood shit. And, like, that is the stuff that lasts you a lifetime. I can't imagine if, you know, I went to 4 different schools in a row. Like, yeah, I would have met a bunch of people, but, like, how meaningful and fruitful can those relationships be when you're only there for just 1 year or 1 season? Because I don't even know if the guys who are there for 1 year. Like, obviously, football is in the beginning of the academic calendar, so it's like, do they literally just transfer as soon as the season ends? Do they finish the academic year? I actually don't know that.
That's a good point, because when you think about it, all these schools are on different academic calendar years. Like Ohio State runs on trimesters. We were a semester-based school at Penn State. So like that's a whole nother element. That's a whole nother element to it, where like different schools have different academic calendars. So like trying to mash the transfer portal up with that is really, really hard. Like I think to simplify that, like you should treat spring ball as like OTAs. Yeah. And that's when because like at the end of the day, the season's getting longer now. Like your top teams are playing. And we talked about this heading into the season with Penn State, just about how they managed playing late into January last year. And then winter workouts got cut short. And then spring ball got consolidated and cut short. And most teams are shutting down spring games because they don't want to put tape out of their 2s and 3s. So like,
just crazy.
Let's just make spring ball this period of like
acclimatization,
consolidated, like, hey, here's the transfer portal window. Here's when the coaching cycle can happen, right? Here's when it's kind of voluntary, but, you know, not, but like whatever, however you want to.
Discretionary.
Discretionary. Yeah. Optionally mandatory, as I like to say. But like, maybe that's a fix, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know if that's been vetted. I don't know the legitimacy of that, but like, think about that, you know, like shouldn't be that way. So anyway, that's a great little soapbox. And I just,
and we can go for days when it comes to that subject, because there are just so many factors and so many things that it affects. Obviously, like you said, it's a spider web, you know, so we could go for days, but at least that is a good basis of kind of, you know, how we feel, how we think things could change, you know, who we think could be put in position to make that impact, to make college football what it should be, you know, at the end of the day. And it should be an experience in which these kids get to grow, these kids get to maximize their education, their football experience, their opportunity on the field and off of it as well. That is what it should be. No one's opportunities should be getting cut short. No one should be put in compromising positions that don't allow them to maximize on something that they've already started, or to not finish a season, or not finish your obligation to the team. And I mean, the more we talk about this, the more we talk about the solutions to everything, the more everything just starts to sound more like the NFL. Yeah. And if there are as many parallels as we can take from the NFL, as many things that we can institutionalize and all be the same across the board, across institutions, the better that we're going to be in the college football world. But that takes time.
And my last point, and I want to get this out there, the NFL should be paying attention. The NFL should be putting some form of bug in the ear, because at the end of the day, the NFL doesn't realize it yet. But in 10 years, if this continues the way it continues, that product is going to be affected by the lack of discipline and willingness to face adversity and climb out of holes. That product is going to be affected.
Yeah, that is so true. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is an absolute fact. And to an extent, I would argue that we're already seeing it right now. I would argue that we are already seeing it right now. I mean, you've got the culture of the NFL is changing. I mean, we knew the whole deal last season, with Micah and his podcast and him being in Dallas. That's like kind of a new age thing for players to be talking as much as they do. Marlon Humphrey, with the Ravens, Lamar Jackson's got at some points has had to kind of shut his stuff down because it is affecting the team to a degree. There's players in Dallas's locker room who at times were not happy with what Micah had to say about the team. And at some points, it was looked at as a distraction, but now there's way more free speech. There's way more power, and star players realizing that they have a bit more power than maybe they thought before. Where it's like, hey, look, you can say what you want about me. You can trade me. You can this, you can that. But, hey, I'm going to be a 12 sacks a year guy. So now what? And that kind of wasn't the attitude before. There was more of a humble approach from a player standpoint. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for player empowerment and owning kind of your piece of the pie, because our piece of the pie has and was, too small. But at the same token, what we can't allow to happen is for us to take advantage of it in a way that ends up being a bit spiteful towards the organization, or like you said, ruins the product in any kind of way, because we need to keep it as pure as we possibly can.
Correct. It's an interesting
new age.
I think this entire explanation and all this stuff, I think, leads us to this perfect segue of I think that's part of the issues that Penn State is facing right now with their coaching search and everything that's going around it. And we are going to get to the Rutgers game and beyond here towards this, but I do want to touch on this because, again, this has been...
What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to State Media. I just want to let you guys know this is all made possible because of Family Clothesline. The crew down there does a great job, super supportive, and we can't thank them enough for their partnership. Make sure when you guys are in town, check them out. Got the best gear, freshest stuff, always up to date, super creative. And again, thank you for tuning in.
If you've been following along, I've made some predictions. Jason's made some calls, but at this point, I said this, I'm truly palms up because it's just, it's literally changing by the hour, and any type of quote unquote inside information I'm getting is just like, the target is just, it's like a jackrabbit on coals, on like a field of coals, dude. Like, this thing's just bouncing around all day long. But as it sits, November 30th, according to AI, and I'm sure there's different things, so gas me up, fire me up for this, but Lincoln Riley's got a 21% chance. Brian Daboll has a 16% chance. Kalani Sitake from BYU has a 15% chance. Bob Chesney still hanging on with an 11% chance. Terry Smith, 9.
Chesney's the JMU coach, right?
Bob Chesney's the JMU coach, yes. Kalen DeBoer, 4. Josh Heupel, which is one that just came out of nowhere, at 18.
That's Tennessee?
Tennessee, yes. So we're sitting here, a bunch of guys got extended, like you mentioned. I think we outlined the entire ecosystem as it lays. But when you look at this, I think the Lincoln Riley one's a really interesting one because of his track record and what he's done, previous spots. And I mean,
in terms of
just kind of bouncing around, if you get what I mean. You know what I mean? It's interesting. Like, he left Oklahoma, which was a decent situation, was kind of running into some stuff, had some good success there, left Oklahoma, went to USC with the expectation that it blows up. USC now sitting on the precipice of like the number 1 recruiting class in 2026. Decent year, right? But like, is Lincoln looking at Penn State as maybe an even better situation than he anticipated USC being, which I think is really unique. But, at the end of the day, all these things kind of come with pros and cons, right? Like, Lincoln has left some situations when times got a little tough, but Lincoln could potentially bring a 2026 recruiting class and some talent from USC that could fix these issues, and we can keep this momentum rolling. And, 26, our slate isn't crazy. So, like, that's something that I think is really enticing for these coaches. When you look
that's true, too. Absolutely.
We play at Michigan, and I think, USC comes to town, and then if you want to circle another one, like we go to Washington, right? Like other than that, the schedule's pretty light. Out of conference schedule is very light.
No Ohio State,
no Oregon. It's really. What do you think about that? Like, I think just for me, like the way that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a coach and you're looking at the current environment, I 1,000%, I'm looking at the freaking schedule of the next goddamn 2 years if I can.
Yeah, right.
And I'm being super fucking real with myself, with the type of guys I think that I can recruit and bring in, or who of my class I can bring in, a roster evaluation, the whole nine.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, if you're a coach nowadays, you go in there and sign a 5-year, 6-year, 7-year, 8-year contract if you want. Every coach nowadays, you got 3. If you're a new coach, you got 3. Some, you got 2. Some of them.
Yeah.
Because what? Michigan State was how long? 2 years, no?
Yeah, 2 or 3, yeah. But you're
2,
right.
I'm pretty sure. What's his name? Jonathan? 2 years.
Smith. Yeah.
2 years. So you can go in and sign a 6-year contract. That sounds good. But the reality is, if you don't get your shit together and you don't come out hot, like, yeah, maybe the first year, no matter what, they're not going to care, even if you go fucking 0-12. But, man, that next year, you are under the fucking lights. Like, they don't care. And don't let you say the wrong thing in the press conference and start to put that fire under your own ass. And then it's the fans. And then it's Twitter. And then it's the noise. Then it gets louder and louder. Then it's media. Then there's frustrations. Like, that whole thing can build and build quick, man. And it's kind of like, it's almost like the phantom of like cancel culture that's kind of over the top of college football in like a sense. It's almost like that. Like people don't really get chances like that. Opportunities they come few far in between. They just do. That's just the reality of where we're living. You got to take advantage. So if that means, man, looking at the schedule, looking at what games you think you can win, being real with all that kind of stuff, then yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Everybody wants job security. Everybody wants to be able to continually put freaking food on the table for themselves and for their kids. Like, these are the kinds of things, just real life things that are going to these big decisions at the end of the day. And the reality is these decisions will be harder and harder to make as the environment gets more and more insufferable and unforgiving.
I think the one thing I want to carry on from our conversation last week, right? Like, I think we came out and we painted a case for Terry, and like, this is the hard part, and this is where I get frustrated, just watching this, because similarly to like college football, how both can be true with, the tough lessons and also being financially fruitful and all this stuff and a win-win across the board. Like, that's how I try to view all solutions, is like, the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. And the answer is probably like, how do we make this as much of a win-win as possible for all the assets that can make the bigger overarching thing in the conversation, in this particular conversation, it's Penn State, better. And I think if Terry was going to be the guy, we would have already named him. So I don't think that Terry's probably going to be like the guy. Now, what bothers me about that is I think Terry still needs to be a guy and an important guy in the solution moving forward. And that's the one thing that I'm probably more tuned into and keyed up on, is like, because of what he did, because of his passion for this place, because of his recruiting roots, all of these things, you can go down the list, right? And, also the fact that he's a hell of a football coach. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just another added bonus, right? But I think like the best case scenario for me for Penn State is this thing gets handled probably by the end of this week. We're recording on Monday. This is December 1st, for all you guys who know or wondering. Something probably gets handled this week. And like, can we retain Terry Smith in some capacity, whether it's an extended role in like GM while also coaching corners, while also kind of helping this new guy understand the landscape of Penn State. Like, that to me is the biggest win for Penn State, is how can we keep Terry involved in some capacity while also bringing in whomever else we need to bring in to check whatever other boxes that are out there on this list. But like, I'm now more concerned because this thing has gotten just so off the rails and it's been so mentally draining. Like, I've been more concerned with trying to find like what's the best thing for Penn State. And you know, Jay, like that's been my MO since I was 16 years old. And I landed on the conclusion that Terry Smith involved and probably a handful of other folks that are on this staff right now involved for the long term is probably what's best for Penn State, while bringing in some fresh, new, injected thought processes and taking advantage of the transfer portal and taking advantage of the recruiting cycle to make sure.
But it's a tough ask.
We do. It is a very tough ask.
Because what you got to understand here, for fans and stuff, a lot of coaches, like Coach Franklin actually used to talk about this in some of his press conferences, how he used to keep a list of like up-to-date replacements, whether it's football minds that he met at coaching carousels or coaching camps or whatever the case, or if he heard about a guy at a certain school who was doing incredible things. Like he kept a list of guys under each position, D coordinator, offense coordinator, quarterback coach, linebacker coach, of guys who, if his coaches ended up graduating to accept the bigger positions, he would have a short list of guys, that were already on his mind. And the thing with that is, like, when these coaches leave and they go to other places, they have their guys. So as much as we want, Terry Smith to be around and be here, understand that is also asking another guy who was maybe a head coach or already kind of has his band of wolves, basically asking to say no to a guy that he's been working with for 5 or 10 years or has a long relationship with a guy. Like that's what that means. Or asking him to value a guy that maybe he just doesn't know in Terry Smith. We know, but depending on who this candidate is, they might not know Terry. They might not understand just exactly that value that Terry has. So, getting them to see that value in a short period of time, or getting them to compromise on maybe a guy who's been their DB coach for the last 10 years that they've been working hand in hand with, and, either telling them no or demoting that guy to a different position or changing his position to somewhere else. Like, those are tough, hard conversations, man. Like, they just are. So as much as we want Terry there, I just find it really, really difficult to believe that he's going to be, if it's not in the head coaching capacity. Yeah. I just find it hard to believe. As much as I know his value, as much as I know he should be there, this, that, and the third, it just from a real life circumstances standpoint, knowing how this shit goes, it would be really hard for me to believe that another head coach who already has his staff in mind or who he wants to work with to let to him a stranger, because at the end of the day, that's who Terry would be to this guy, a stranger, in the fold. And it sucks, but it's just,
it's a great argument. It's a great point. Right. And that's where I think my blindness in, again, like what's best for this place is probably where it's at, but it's a great point, and I think that this has become much less about whether Penn State's a great opportunity, because I think that that's probably understood. And I think it's become more about like these PR, personnel, alignment type of war games right now. And it's fascinating. Like when I remove my emotional attachment to it, like it is really fascinating. Like just watching it and then how fast this stuff's moving.
Yeah.
But I think like I'll definitely, obviously, I'm gonna have my head on a swivel. I'm excited. This has been very well vetted, to say the least. If not, actually, but with time on task. I know that all the parties have been working tirelessly on this, and fans are wanting answers. So I expect us to get that here shortly. But it's going to be this. Like I said, these next 2-3 months is going to be probably the most important 2 or 3 months that we've had in Penn State in a long time. And I'm excited just to kind of lock in here and get to know some folks, and see how this goes, because I think it's going to be really cool. But
let's wrap that up. I think we should get to the game. A tale of two sides of the ball.
Bro.
And I'm going to just leave it at this. One side of the ball wanted to play in a bowl game, and the other did not. It is quite simple. If you go watch that tape of this Rutgers game, I ain't going to say who, because all you got to do is look at the film. One side of the ball wanted to play in a bowl game, and the other side did not. Because when I watched the defense and I watched the effort in which guys are trying to rip off blocks, when I saw the angles, when I saw the fundamentals and simple tackling, it was abysmal. For being real, it was abysmal. I've never seen Penn State defense look like straight up Swiss cheese. That's what it looked like. Swiss cheese. I mean, getting gashed, and don't get me wrong, the other side of the ball was the same way when it came to Rutgers defense. I mean, we were running the ball, and I'm seeing holes. Like we was just playing Olay defense. Olay!
Yeah.
Olay! I mean, this shit was bad, bro.
Yeah.
Angles bad. Block destruction bad. I mean, fuck. Missed assignments left and right. Two guys, the same fucking guy, one guy running wide open. Miscommunication. Yeah. It's like, did you just fall asleep when you thought he was going to show up, and now that's it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one wheel route touchdown was like, I'm not sure. It was definitely an MA. It was a blown assignment.
Yeah, it was an MA.
Like the safety, it looked like he was trying to add. Because I don't think structurally they called like a blitz, but like he added, and his responsibility was like 15 yards up the field already.
Right.
Like you didn't have a peeler, you didn't have anything with him, and that was like I was like, what? Like, you blame coordinators. Like that was one of those situations where I was like, that's just a flat out miss, bro. Like,
yeah, dude.
And to your point. It's been interesting because we called it on the pregame show. Like I expected our offense to do what our offense did. Right. We expected them to continue to develop. Grunk looked good. We ran the football. Rutgers was obviously very susceptible to that with their run game defense. It's been abysmal all year. But I thought this defense was starting to figure some stuff out. Like I thought, I just watching it, and again, whomever you said, and I'll own this dead ass wrong. I don't know if anyone should be scared of us at this point in time based upon your work. Lastly, I was dead.
Yeah, you're pissing off a lot of people on IG with that shit.
Yeah,
man.
Dead
people freaking arguing for days up in the IG comments over saying what you said, man. You got a lot of flack.
Little clickbait, I'm getting settled in this media space. But dead ass wrong. Had they come out and pitched a shutout or a one-score game, I'd probably still be standing on that. But
yeah, me too.
I just was very shocked. Because, again, of like the buildup, right? The emotional side of everything that happened seemed to be kind of getting more on the back burner, and they seemed to be clicking and playing with discipline. And
what is the excuse for coming out and playing uninspired?
Yeah, I mean, at one point in time,
that's what I see.
Yeah.
It's not like we don't have a good players thing. It's not like, the scheme sucks. It's not like it's literally just a matter of like, do we want to show up and play? Because I've seen what that defense looks like that shows up and is focused and is locked in and is engaged and recognizing things defensively that they see pre-snap and this, that, and the third. And then there's games like yesterday where I'm just like, do y'all want to be out there?
Yeah.
Where's the leadership?
Yeah,
we're bleeding. Who's going to stop the blood?
Yeah.
Who's going to get to the sideline and be like, yo, we need to lock the fuck in, bro. This ain't who the fuck we are. We're playing fucking Rutgers. Where is that? Who's the person who does that? Or do we all just go back to the bench, feel sorry for ourselves, look left and look right, wait for somebody to say something, take our fucking coach's correction and go out and just hope that the next drive is going to be better? No, you got to take action. There's no assertive ass figure from a leadership standpoint who has the heartbeat of the defense to be like, yo, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And maybe normally Amari's that guy, and maybe he doesn't feel as comfortable doing that because he's a first-year guy, But that's what a lot of people expect out of their middle linebacker or stud defensive lineman or stud defensive back. But I don't see that level of leadership. I'm not saying these guys aren't out there trying, but there's nobody who, when things aren't going the right way or things aren't going well, there's nobody who stops the bleeding.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
And no, I mean, they're all fair points. It was like I said,
it was bad.
It caught me completely off guard. Like especially at this point in the year, right? Like all of that they've been through, all the ups and downs. They finally had settled in for a little bit, and it just was high volatility again. I mean, this is like being a fan of Penn State's like being in the crypto market right now, dude. Like it's just that shit is volatile, bro.
Fucking XRP, god damn.
Hang on here, buckle up. But it's damn. It's crazy. So
Dogecoin.
Yeah, dude. And this is not financial advice. But yeah, man.
Oh my goodness.
But I just it's been shocking. But the bright side is offense. I mean, Katron 226, Nick 9 for like 89 or something like that. Nick averaged like 9 a carry, Katron averaged 10 a clip. Like incredible.
I mean, dude, it felt like it was a first down every run. It felt like every run was for a first down. I mean, that's what it felt like when I was watching the team. I was just like, Jesus, like. I mean, the gaps were just like anybody. My mom could have ran for 5 yards on every play against that.
Yeah, bro.
I mean, fuck.
I mean, Grunk 17 for 21. The one thing I will say, third down sucked. We were 1 for 8, like brutal. We were 3 for 3 out fourth, though, made up for it. But it was just, it was a tough one to watch, but we got it done. And like I said, we are going bowling. The one thing that I thought was really unique is just listening to these players after the game and even up until now, talking about wanting to play again, which I like. I like that, right? Like they're excited. I think about this opportunity.
Yeah, I definitely heard that from DeLuca.
Yeah, in mass, like I think they are excited for one more, and that's the one thing that I always kind of was like on edge about, right? Like I've been on record saying like I don't know if playing in a bowl game might be the best thing for this place, but on the flip side of that coin now, with kind of where everything's at, I think these seniors are gonna take it more personal, and that's kind of the benefit of having 30 seniors on your team, 30 plus seniors on your team. Like they're gonna go out there and do it, and I think some of these underclassmen will understand it as well, and guys who want to be here. So I think that it will be a good thing at the end of the day for the program. Excited to see the matchup, Pinstripe Bowls. A possibility. I think the Detroit game's a possibility. There might be 1 or 2 down in Florida that are possibilities, but definitely not what we've been used to as Penn State fans. But I think when you look at this, will be a positive thing, especially if they come out a little bit more refreshed, a little bit more focused. And, at the end of the day, for a lot of these guys, last time they're going to put it on. Last time they're going to strap it up. And like it'll be over before you know it. You talked about Coach Franklin last week saying that like it's true, dude. Like, it goes by super quick. So I think that these guys understand that and are going to value that. So, that's a good thing. But yeah, frustrating watching that, bro. Crazy.
Agreed, 100%. I think that's one of our best phrases we've heard on this. Is that investing right now in Penn State football is feeling like crypto? That was a great line.
Yeah,
because that really culminates what this season has felt like.
Yeah,
this year. So
it's nuts. But
we'll see what bowl we end up being in. That's Pinstripe or whatever the case is. But regardless, it'll always be good to cover the boys again. We'll receive word if we're going to be on the pregame show with Modelo. For that game, we'll see what ends up happening with that. But obviously, we'll be excited to see our boys go out and play one more time. And at the end of the day, finish the season off. A season that was a disappointing season on a good note with some good energy going into next year, a little momentum. So.
Yeah, some ups and downs, and make sure these seniors leave their mark. And we're gonna stay probably tuned in here with a regular cadence. Probably talking more about what we kind of hit on earlier, just broad stroke college football, what we're seeing, coaching carousel as this continues. If it continues, we make a hire, probably going to hop on and do a deep dive into that. So we're trying to keep this train rolling. Jason, I appreciate all the support. It's been awesome. And we really try to put put time and effort into this and make sure that we give our best perspective and representation of the program and use this as a platform to give other guys their voice too. So expect a little bit of that as well. But appreciate you guys as always. Another episode of the Pocket Down. Boys are bowling. Still waiting on this head coach anxiously, and we will see how it goes. But make sure you're tuned in, locked in. We're going to keep the content pumping. Jay, appreciate you as always, and we'll catch you guys next week.